2, 3, go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Miami Torah Center. We are ecstatic to have this week's special guest speaker, Rabbi Tzvi Nightingale, all the way from Hollywood, Florida. So thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for joining us. Rabbi Nightingale has been in Jewish education for how many decades now?
Oh gosh, I got smicha in 1985.
Okay, so that's
figure it out.
Many years. We're not going to count. Over 3 decades, and the rabbi has taught hundreds and thousands of Jews, as well as taken them on many missions around the world, including Israel and Europe and whatnot. And I was very lucky for a year and a half to be the rabbi's neighbor, just live around the corner from the rabbi in Hollywood. So we have a great relationship. We're very happy that you're here, and it's a great privilege. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, Rabbi Laredo. You know, Rabbi Laredo was in Hollywood, as you mentioned. Our loss is your gain, because he was doing amazing stuff there. Yeah, you guys won out. You won the lottery. Okay, pleasure to be here. Tonight's class is the spiritual bucket list. Oh, it's not on?
It's on.
We're good? Okay. Take 2. The spiritual bucket list. So it's based on a movie called The Bucket List. Now, has anyone seen the movie The Bucket List? Art, you saw the movie The Bucket List. I have not seen the movie. I've seen the trailer, okay? So I know somewhat what it is. Maybe I should have read a couple of reviews, and that way I could have faked it a little bit better. But be that as it may, it's a movie with Jack Nicholson and who else? Morgan Freeman, thank you. And these 2 guys, and they're in the hospital, and apparently they have serious conditions. They're, the issue, they're going to kick the bucket, and then they decide to go do these things before they leave this earth, to make sure. And that's where they get the bucket list from. Like, people talk about different things they want to do while they're still on this earth. Cross it off my bucket list. And so one thing, for instance, you hear people, they want to, do a parachute or something. Like some things that people really, really want to make sure they do before they leave this earth. So I figured, okay, that's very nice. Well, maybe we should have a spiritual equivalent of that. And so I have 6 things here. And this is just mine, okay? This isn't from the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't say, the following is the spiritual bucket list. It doesn't appear there. This is just things that I came up with, which some of them are one-off things, just like on a bucket list. You don't want to regularly jump out of maybe some people do, parachute out of a plane. And some of them should be things that are my job. Some of them are kind of funny and cute. Who am I going to lie? I want money for beer. You ever see that guy? So they're standing there and they're asking for some money. Show of hands. Has anyone here ever given them $20? $20. 5. We got a 5.
I need 5.
5. But $20?
Maybe once I get 100 to somebody.
Oh. Well, you would remember, I think. And I'll tell you why. You see, most people, we give $1. Why don't we give $20? Why don't we give $50? What do we tell ourselves? Why not? Why don't we do that?
They're going to use it for drugs.
They're going to use it for drugs. Why don't they go out and work? Why don't they just go do something with it? And so here's the thing, and here's why I suggest you doing this and trying this if you've never tried it. I've done it a number of times. And it's a very, very powerful thing. You see, when we see that person and we have our cheshbonot, we have our calculations, why they don't necessarily deserve $20. So, you see, we don't do that when it comes to other stuff in life. Meaning, when you go to Macy's or Bloomingdale's and you see a pair of shoes that you really like, or you see a watch, or you see a suit or something, do you always, so I hope you sometimes do, but we do what we call an impulse buy at times, don't we? You say, you know what? What the heck? I want these shoes. I know they're hundreds of dollars, but I'm going to get them anyway. I'm going to treat myself. Do we sit there and go, well, wait a second. what did Bloomingdale's pay for them? And what's the profit margin? And is it really? That's how you shop. Okay. So one of your things on your spiritual bucket list is you got to do an impulse buy, okay? Which we're gonna get to that, by the way. We're gonna get to one of these. But for most of us, there are times where we'll go to a restaurant, we'll order the bottle of wine, it's triple the price of what it costs in a store, plus the gratuity, plus the tip, and we don't think, and we don't make the cheshbonot, we don't make these calculations, but we're willing to spend the money like that. So if you're going to do that for yourself, no, you don't regularly do it for the guy on the side of the street, but periodically try that. And I'll tell you what will happen. You will get such extraordinary reactions from people. You will change that guy's day. You'll change his life, maybe. Because all day long, he or she are out there. And people are treating them like garbage, disdain. And again, I don't know what went on in that person's life that got them to that place, whether they made bad choices or not. And frankly, it's irrelevant. And so all day long, people are ignoring them or maybe giving them $1. And when you give them $20, when you give them $50, you're basically saying, I value you as a human being. And they sense that. And I've seen the reactions. I did this most recently. I did it in New York. I went to visit my son over there because I hadn't seen him, and it was a very interesting day. We had a whole day planned out, actually. And then as soon as we picked up lunch, someone hit our car. There went the day. But at any rate, so we ended up like the highlight of the day after we, the police and Geico and blah, 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 once we finished everything. So we still had some time. We ended up going to, he's in Queens, downtown Queens, whatever the special parts of Queens, a nice part of Queens, if there's such a thing, oxymoron, nice part of Queens. But anyway, we went to the nice part of Queens. And there was a guy there. No, there was a decent, Forest Hills, right? Forest Hills. I don't know New York very well, okay? Don't spend too much time in New York. At any rate, so there was a guy there, and he was sitting on the ground. He had a dog, I remember, and he wasn't an old guy. He was a young guy. And I gave him $20. And the look on his face that he gave me, it was he just doesn't get that. He just doesn't get that. I'll give you one other example that I did. It wasn't actually giving like $20. It was a little something different. There's when you get a nail in your tire. So if you get a nail in your tire, do not go to Pep Boys or Tire Kingdom, okay? I'm giving you a tip over here. It has nothing to do with spiritual bucket list. This is just I'm trying to save you some money. So, because they'll tell you, oh no, we can't plug it, that's dangerous. You need a new tire, right? No, you go to the local guy, okay? He sticks a piece of rubber in it, $7, sterling and $4.41. He fixes your tire, okay? So I go there one Sunday morning. You learn something, like, forget the spiritual bucket list. Everyone's going, oh, I didn't know that. Now, so I go one Sunday morning because I got, the slow leak. And this place, it's a really hole-in-the-wall place, A&M Tire, Sterling Road and 441 on the southeast corner. At any rate, so I go there, and I kind of pull in around the same time this other couple pulls in with a similar situation. And these people are driving this really beat-up old Ford Taurus. And the guy's full of tattoos, and they got like piercings everywhere. And this is what people would, when people, and it's, I don't want to like be derogatory, but trailer trash, it's like, it's just this, the epitome, like if to define it, that's what they were. And so we kind of both came at the same time. The guy takes me, fixes my tire, looks at their tire, he goes, you got to get a new tire. You see, the problem is if you get the nail in the tread, then they could fix it. But if it goes in the sidewall, they can't fix it. That you can't plug, okay? I sound like an auto mechanic over here. I'm such an expert. At any rate, so he tells this couple, you got to get a new tire. And I see this look come over their face. And he says, look, I could give you a used tire for like $40. And they go off on the side and they're talking and they're discussing. And I came to pay. And I gave the guy $50 for my $7 tire. I said, use the rest of the money for their tire. And I didn't want him to say anything. I'll take care of their tire. He ended up telling them. And I dafka did it. I specifically did it because because of you could just see the way they are in life. And they looked at me like I was Jesus, okay? Like I just like I just like saved them, It was like, and they were like, thank you so much. It was, and the bottom line is, you see, $20, $40, it's not going to make a difference in my life. It won't make a dent in my life, but it makes a huge difference in their lives. And so that's the idea. Number one on your bucket list, try this. And I've told this to a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of stories come back to me about people who've tried this, that they see the reaction that they get from the person, and that in turn makes their day. I had a woman, Dina Lapko, she's in our community. She told me once, and I always use the example of this, that she did it once. They were coming back from a football game, the Steelers-Miami game, and she did this. She said that was the highlight of her day when she did that and saw the reaction from the guy. It's like you were just at a Steelers-Miami game, football. That is like the thing in America. But you know what was memorable for her? Not that football game. What was memorable for her that she walked away with was when she did that. So that's your homework assignment if you've never done this. Give someone on the side of the road $20 and watch what happens. Okay? That's number one. Number two. So, in the typical bucket list, there's like experiencing. And that's very, very important from a Jewish perspective. From a Jewish perspective, we are big onto experiencing things that you should experience every permitted pleasure there is out there. You should not be shy. If you know someone who owns a Ferrari, you should say, yeah. I'm not suggesting, different, to meet someone unique, you got to grab that. You got to grab life by the horns. I'll give you the source for this in a moment. I remember once I played tennis. Art over here is one of my tennis rebbes. And he's way better than me. One day I'll play like Art. At any rate, so I one time went to, there's a tennis center that it was like a Tuesday morning. They have these clinics from 9 to 10:30. And you go on a Tuesday and it's kind of empty because, when you're a rabbi, you make your own hours. Everyone else has got real jobs. But, so I went. There's hardly anybody there. And so I come back in, and the guy who works there, Jesse, was it Jesse or the other guy or whatever, I don't remember. And I remember I came from the clinic and I walked by, and there were these 3 people on the bench. Because there were a bunch of kids practicing. They were getting ready for the Orange Bowl, which is a kids tournament, okay? And there were these 3 people sitting on the bench. I remember there was a guy, he had a hat, and you couldn't really see him so well. There was a woman, a blonde woman in between, kind of pretty attractive woman. And then the guy who was schmoozing with them. I walk by, you look, you say hi back, whatever, kept going, And then I get back to go pay for the clinic, whatever, and the guy goes, that's Wayne Gretzky out there. I'm from Canada. Wayne Gretzky is God. Okay, it's he's the best hockey player ever. They will never break his records. He is the Michael Jordan of hockey, And I said, get out of here. He goes, yeah, that's Wayne Gretzky out there. I said, oh, I gotta go meet him. And I ran back out there. And I went up to him, I said, excuse me, as a Canadian, I'm embarrassed that I walked by you and didn't notice you. I said, can I get a picture? And his wife was so gracious. She's an actress, Janet Jones, I think, look it up, Google it. But she took a picture. But the point is that when you have moments in life, you gotta grab them. You gotta take them. And this is the idea. The Rabbi Noah Weinberg, the founder of Aish Torah, he would always talk about this idea of we're here for pleasure. And I'll give you a pasuk, a verse that sources this. And there's a whole bunch of things. For instance, it says in the Gemara, it says in the Talmud, in the Mishnah actually, Chayv Adam, a person's obligated to say, Bishvili nivra ha'olam. The world was created for me. It might be. I'm bad at that. Okay, I'm not one of these guys who can quote. Ask Rabbi Laredo those questions. Okay, but Bishvilini V'Rav, not to the exclusion of anyone else, but that God created everything here for me to enjoy. So if you look, for instance, at the very, very beginning, when God creates Adam and Chava, when God creates man and woman, it says, the pasuk says, "V'yitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam," that God commanded the man, and you've heard this; it's very familiar. And he told him, Mikol etz hagan, from every tree of the garden, achal tochal, you can eat. Uma etz hadat, but from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, lo tochal mimeno, don't eat from that, because the day that you eat from it, that's it, finished, you're going to die. All right? Not die immediately, but you'll introduce death into the world. It's a whole separate issue. So, what people read this, and they normally see that there is one commandment: don't eat from this tree. The Talmud Yerushalmi looks at it differently, however, the Jerusalem Talmud, and says the first part of that verse, where it says, from every tree of the garden, uses this double language, achal tochal, you must eat. You have to eat from every tree of the garden. And it then goes on to explain that, when we meet the Almighty after 120 years, it's not just a question of what did you do wrong in your life. You know what Hashem also expects of us? Did you participate and partake and enjoy every pleasure that I offered you in that world? We're not into like, oh no, I don't want to do this. It's going to bring me down. No. The concept of Kaduche of Holiness, using the physical for a spiritual end. And so the idea behind this, once again, is we are here to enjoy this world. And that doesn't take away from our relationship with the Almighty. The exact opposite, it adds to our relationship from the Almighty. If you go to your parents, you go to your mother, and she puts out a spread, you go on a Sunday afternoon, and she makes all this wonderful food for you, and you walk in there and say, I'm just going to have a glass of water. I'm good with water. It'll kill her. It'll kill her. She wants to give you good. And it's the same thing. The Almighty wants to give us good. That's all He wants to do. That's the source of creation. And so that's why number two of this, and that's why this is not a one-off thing, this is more of ongoing, that part of the spiritual bucket list is you have to have this attitude of enjoying everything you can when it comes your way in life. Okay? It's a good one. All positive, right? All good stuff. So over here. Question?
I'm just going to add a small item. There's a very famous line by Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society. He was teaching these high school kids, college kids, and he kept referring to carpe diem, seize the day. That's how you have to live your life every day.
Right.
Make the most of it.
Right.
And it's a wonderful philosophy.
Yeah. Seize the day. Carpe diem. There you go. Okay. Number 3. Apologize. Again, not very original. Apologize even if the mistake that you made was 45 years ago. No, there's no time limit. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you a personal example of that. When I was in 5th grade, I didn't grow up Orthodox, okay? I didn't grow up religious. I went to Wilmington Public School in Toronto. Wonderful place, 90% Jewish, but a public school. And I had Mr. Robinson. Who? Mr. Robinson. Did someone go to my school? Oh, I didn't have Robinson. I had Canton, okay. At any rate, I had Mr. Robinson. I hated Mr. Robinson. I really didn't like him. And I gave him a hard time all year long. And I'll tell you why I hated the guy. Here I was.
He might be watching on Facebook.
So we'll get to it. It's okay. I hope he watches on Facebook. I don't know if he is. We're going to get there. And the reason I hated Mr. Robinson was because he favored the girls. Now, was that real or imagined? I don't know. But that was my perception as a 10-year-old. I was judge, I was jury, and I was kind of like the class leader. So I got like other kids to do mischievous stuff in Mr. Robinson's class. And that's what I did way back then. Fast forward, I don't know, 40-something years later, and like now we got Facebook, and people post on Facebook class pictures, and there I find my class picture for Mr. Robinson. Now I'm gonna pass these out, okay? And I want you to look at this. I only got 2 copies. It's not the greatest, but there's a bit of an yeah, show it on the video. Thank you. But there is now the reason I want you to look at this is there is a bit of an anomaly if you look at the class. Send it to the back. I know. I guess I should. Oh, I have to see. No, we're not here to find me. Send it to the back. Should we put this on pause? Whatever. But there's a bit of an anomaly in that picture. I think he did that. Show some folks in the back. I'll just tell you what it is. Where am I? I have to look at the picture. I don't remember offhand where I was. But, yeah, I remember who I am. Sometimes I don't. Where am I in this picture?
I think this is him. The picture.
Here I am. The redhead. Right there. I had a lot of good redhead back then. If you look at that picture, count the number of boys and count the number of girls. No. Exact opposite. There are 20 boys in the class. There were 10 girls in the class. And 40 plus years later, it dawned on me why he favored the girls. It was because there were so few of them. And you can imagine, here you're in a class with all these 10-year-old boisterous kids. The girls probably felt a little uncomfortable. So I wrote an article about this, and in the article, I wrote an apology to him. And I'll read you part of it. So here's to you, Mr. Robinson. I don't know if you are alive or well, or if this will ever make it to your computer or phone, but I hereby wish to apologize for being such a bratty little snot in your classroom so long ago. I did not appreciate that in the kindness of your heart and the goodness of your soul, you were doing everything you could to ensure that every student would have a wonderful and happy learning experience. My deepest apologies, and I hope I will learn from it and pass it on to others as well. The lesson that it sometimes takes close to 50 years to see the bigger picture and to finally notice the beauty and goodness that others are painting in it. Sometimes it takes a while to realize the wrong that you've done, even as a 10-year-old. And that doesn't mean you can't apologize. It's never too late. I don't know. He never got back to me. I've never heard. I don't know if he's alive. I have no idea. But I felt an obligation. I got to do my part, whatever I could, to reach out and apologize for my behavior of what I did to him in that class when I was a 10-year-old. So apologize. It'll get it off your. I don't have to go into what apologizing does. That should be on your bucket list. And I know it's a no-brainer, but let's face it, we all know how difficult, especially men, how difficult it is for men to apologize. My wife, no problem. She says sorry, You ever have those situations, like sometimes my wife does something, and I have like a whole drasha of what I'm going to do. I have like a whole speech prepared of what I'm going to say to her. And then I'm like 10% into it. She goes, "You're right, I'm sorry." "Oh, no, you can't say sorry now. I got more material over here." "I'm sorry, what more do you want, Women have generally an easier time apologizing than egotistical men. But that's up there on the spiritual bucket list. Yes. Okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to generalize between males and females. I'm just going to go out publicly. Okay. Number 4. So far we have that you should tzedakah to $20, seize the day, apologize. Number 4, very simple one, and that is make people feel good. Make people feel good. This is very easy to do. Very easy to do. how to make friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie talks about this. And anyone who's effective talks about this. It's very easy to make people feel good because you look. Everyone has their thing. Everyone has their shtick. Everyone has the thing that they're passionate about. I remember once a guy. He was moving a piece of furniture, and he wasn't a young guy. He was in his 50s or whatever, but he had this ponytail of hair all the way down to his, butt. And you know what I said to him? I said, "How long have you grown that?" And he told me 17 years. And he talked about it. And you think well, you're thinking maybe, probably people always talk to him about that. Like he's probably bored of talking. No. When people have their thing that they're into, they're never bored talking about it. They could talk about it all the time. I didn't bring it today. I drive a Saab. How many people here drive a Saab? Nobody. Have you ever even heard of the car Saab? Yeah, of course. The younger generation's never heard of it, right? Saabs. They stopped making them in 2011. I get people coming up to me, "Oh, you got a Saab," and then they have their Saab story, right? Not S-O-B, S-A-A-B. And you want to know something? I got this shtick for Saabs. I actually own 3 of them, all right? It's a mishigas. I agree, okay? But I got 3 of them. One went to this kid, one went to that kid, and I have 1. But the point is if you come up to me and you say, "Hey, what's with the Saab?" I'll talk to you about that. The guy with the ponytail, he'll talk to you. You see a guy driving a Ford Shelby, and you want to go up to him and talk to him, he'll talk about that. If you see someone who's got interesting, nails, whatever it is, if it's a unique thing, people never tire talking about the things that they're passionate about. That's why you go up to people and talk about their kids and grandkids. It's never "Yeah, I've talked about them enough. I'm done. It's like same old stuff." No, they'll go over and over and over. And so that is the easiest way to make people feel good. Everyone has their thing that they're into. And so talk to them about it. Ask them about it. Learn about it. You'll learn something. But the bottom line is it makes other people feel good. What's wrong with that? Just make them feel good. It's very, very simple. Find their thing. Everyone has their thing. Find what it is. And just bring it up. So that should be on your spiritual bucket list as well. And that's an ongoing thing. It just makes people feel good. It just makes the world a nicer place to be. All right? Anyone got any stories on that one? No? That was okay. All right. Next one. Be part of a revolution. Now we're getting serious. Be part of a revolution. What does that mean? The founder of Aish Torah, has anyone, people here have heard of Aish Torah? Aish.com, fantastic website. It was founded by Rabbi Noah Weinberg in 1974. It's not as well known as Chabad, it's not out there. But if you go to, we have the best property, a little plug over here, a little Aish Torah plug, okay? We have the best property in the Jewish world. The building is right opposite the Kotel, the Western Wall. You go to the Western Wall, you turn around, that's our building right over there. Has the best view of the Western Wall. If anyone's going to Israel and you want to visit there, let me know. I'll get you, sorry? How do we get that is a whole other story, okay? But, and it's a fantastic organization, outreach organization. So Rabbi Weinberg, he was a revolutionary. He wanted to change the Jewish world. And so how do you do that? How do you be part of a revolution? So you learn anything about Judaism, guess what? You have an obligation to teach other people. You see, how do revolutions start? How does society change? How do things, it isn't just like one major charismatic leader. He can't do it himself, or she can't do it herself. What happens is you create an awareness through multiple acts of education and activation and work to get an awareness of the thing. So for instance, you take, for instance, gay rights, and look at the difference between how the gay community was treated in this country 30 years ago versus today. I'm not here to talk about the rightness or wrongness of it, okay? That's a completely separate issue. I'm not going there. What I'm talking about, though, is how did it make that transformation? It wasn't that everyone all of a sudden became gay. No, it was that people started to fight their cause on whatever level. And they wrote letters about it, or they told other people about it, or whatever. It's a groundswell. It's something that one person tells the next, and the next tells the next, and then exponentially it just becomes more and more well known. And so when I say, be part of a revolution, being a Jew is being part of a revolution. We're trying to do tikkun olam. We always talk about the Mashiach should come, the Messiah should come, et cetera, et cetera. It's a process. And that process is each and every one of us can have a role in it. You don't have to be a Rabbi Laredo. You don't have to be a Rabbi Nightingale. You don't have to start an outreach center. But if you know something, you share it with people. You've read a great article about something about Judaism and it had an impact on you, or defending Israel, share it with people. Put it on your Facebook. Send it email it to your people. So it's the idea that, the more different little acts that are done and collectively put together, that's what creates a shift, a paradigm shift. That's what creates a revolution. And that's why Rabbi Weinberg, every time he'd always push, whatever you learn, you don't have to be a rabbi, you don't have to be Orthodox, you don't have to be Shomer Shabbat, whatever it is you know about Judaism, share with someone else. You've been to 5 classes on Torah, you've been to 10 classes on Torah, I got news for you. You know more than 75, 80% of Jews out there. And that you can share that with them. Don't see it as like, okay, all the local rabbis, they got to do their job. No. Every person has an obligation to share whatever they know of Judaism with other people. That's how you become part of a revolution. It's not like you don't have to burn down any bridges. You don't have to get all radical and crazy. You just have to recognize and realize that I have what to offer and do my part. And the more it's done, the more collectively things change, then we see it. I'll just give you, once again, a personal example where I've seen it in my own lifetime. When I first started, like I said, I didn't grow up in a religious home. When I started getting into Judaism, started getting more religious and started going, I went to this high school, now moving from Mr. Robinson to my high school. I went to this high school, Mackenzie, again, 90% Jewish. I don't know, there were hardly any other kids, there were a few as it turned out, but there were hardly any other kids at the time who came from non-Orthodox, non-religious backgrounds, in 1977, let's say, and were studying, Torah-observant Judaism. It was few and far between. You didn't hear that back in 1977. I remember I used to walk into this yeshiva and study with these guys that I hooked up with. I would walk in there, they'd look at me like a weirdo, because non-religious didn't study Torah. Fast forward 40 years later, and it's like everybody knows someone who's become religious or become more committed or keep Shabbat or studying Torah, coming to a Torah class. You didn't have this 35, 40 years ago. The prevalence of the classes here in every different neighborhood, it didn't exist. But it changed. It changed because it was incremental over the years, and in 1 or 2 generations, there's a massively different Jewish community. We still got tons of work to do. There's tons of Jews who are totally disconnected, but it's all part of every person can do whatever they can to make that more of a reality in the greater Jewish world. So that's why I say part of your bucket list is be part of the revolution. Don't be passive. Actively do whatever you can to create more awareness of what being a Jew is, the importance of Israel, etc. Okay? All right. How we doing here?
Good.
I'm good.
What number we got to?
That was number 5. Number 6. And this again is no super huge novelty, but we sometimes forget the importance of it and how amazing it is. And that is Israel. Visit Israel. Live in Israel. I'm not going to go there. That's already a much huger commitment. But visit Israel. What's so unbelievable about this? You see, the most often repeated prophecy in all of Tanakh is the one from Moshe all the way on down through all the Nevi'im, all the prophets. They say the same thing over and over and over and over again. And they're just telling us what God tells them. That God will scatter us to the 4 corners of the earth, and then he'll bring us back. Now you have to appreciate the miraculousness of this, because it's never been repeated in all of history. When a nation loses its land, when a nation loses its government, when a nation loses its common language, when they lose their army, when they lose all the trappings and definitions of nationhood, those nations disappear. There's no Prussia anymore. There's no Moab anymore. There's tons of nations that have come and gone throughout history. Only one people have lost all the definitions of nationhood and gone back to their ancestral homeland. Us, the Jewish people. And so you have to realize, people say, wouldn't it be great if we had prophets today? I got news for you. No. I mean, it would be nice, but it wouldn't change things. If anything, now is the time where we get to see the change. You see, if you're living next door to Ezekiel, to Jeremiah, to Amos, to any of these prophets who are saying, get your act together, because if you don't get your act together, God's going to scatter you all over the world, but he'll eventually bring you back. So you listen to that Navi, you listen to that prophet, it's like, very nice. Maybe it's a prophecy, maybe he's a hallucination. I don't know what he's talking about, whatever. He's talking about something that is going to happen next week, next month, next year, next decade, next century. I don't know. He's talking. But we who are at the other end of history, we get to see the power of those words, the fulfillment of those words, the miraculousness of those words. And that's why the biggest miracle in our day and age is Eretz Yisrael, is that we are back there, that you could go there, that you could, as I'm going to this Saturday night, get on a plane and 13 hours later be in Israel. You know what our grandparents and great-grandparents would have done to do that? And we kvetch. Ooh, I got a lousy seat, Ugh, the loud stewardesses are not nice. The food stinks. You know what they would have done to be in that situation of 13, and not to go to some place which is desolate, but which is vibrant and has fantastic food and amazing hotels, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, it's off the charts. And so the greatest miracle of our time is the fulfillment of these prophecies, is the land of Israel, is being able to go there. And so the thing of spiritual bucket list, and unfortunately, I've met plenty Jews, maybe there's some here, I'm not going to take a poll, but plenty of Jews, they've never been to Israel. Every year, my wife and I, and actually Rabbi Laredo's mother right now is leading a group. We take groups on these trips, Jewish Women's Renaissance Project, where they just changed the name to now Momentum, so it's called Momentum, these trips to Israel, where most of these people, 40s, 50s, never been to Israel. Never been to Israel. I always give the definition. The difference between Israel, being in Israel, and being outside of Israel? It's the difference between a home game and an away game. Home game and away game. What do I mean by that? When there's a home game, when you go to Israel, when you live as a Jew in Israel, when you experience Shabbat in Israel, when you experience the Chagim, the holidays in Israel, it's a home game. What happens at a home game? Your team scores. Everyone around you was like cheering you on. What's an away game? Away game is your team scores, your teammates are cheering you on. There's a few fans maybe in the stands and such, but everyone else is silent and kind of against it. When you keep Shabbat, as beautiful as South Florida is, or anywhere outside of Israel, it's an away game. Even Yom Kippur, there's a lot of Jews doing a lot of great things, but the bottom line is you step outside the synagogue, it's like, it's foreign. They're not keeping Yom Kippur. Even the non-religious in Israel, they have some chush, some sense, some awareness. And so Israel is a home game. Outside of Israel is an away game. And so the greatest miracle of our time is the fact that it's there, and like I said, it's nothing, relatively speaking, to get there. And it is the most mentioned prophecy. No other prophecy is mentioned more often by so many different prophets than that one. And that is on a spiritual bucket list, that really, I left it for the last, but that is number one. It really is. It's, and I've seen it, by the way, from these trips and I'm sure your mother has seen as well, these people, it's interesting, these trips that we take, they call it birthright for mommies, okay? They started just with women. And these women were coming back from these trips, and they were like totally turned on to being Jewish and totally turned on to getting into Israel. And their husbands were like, what happened to you? They came back different people. It was transformative. 1 week, it changed them. And so they had to start, what they started doing, making trips for the men to catch the husbands up with the women, because they were like gung-ho into being Jewish now. And the husbands are like, I don't know what happened to her. And that's what happens 1 week in Israel. You could come to classes for years and years and years outside, but 1 week in Israel changes people much more powerfully and impactfully than anything else. That is the greatest miracle we have in our day and age, and we got to take advantage of it, as much as we can. It's just phenomenal. All right, we good?
Great.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. Has anyone here not been to Israel yet? Anyone not been to Israel? Okay, good. I know, half of the group is Israeli over here, I realize. Last week, okay. All right. Okay. We good? Okay, nice to meet you all.